Hello all and welcome back to Shatter Our Souls with Novaria. Today we are cracking into the final few tracks of Mirror Mode without the use of items. Now, rules are as follows because I have to state it every now and again that I must be able to beat the track without intentionally using items. Yes, running into a random mushroom on the ground is fine. And so, that is it. If I drop an item because I get hit by a blue shell, that is not an intentional use, it is I got hit by a bomb. Moving on, in terms of Mario Kart Double Dash tracks, a lot of people tend to have very similar ideas of which ones are good and which ones are bad. And in this particular case, I feel like my opinion of which are good and bad tracks is slightly skewed because I just spent the last however long playing through Mario Kart Double Dash without the use of items. Sherbet Land, this particular track, is one that ends up being rather low on most people's list. As far as the Star Cup goes, most people would put it probably third at best in this particular cup of Mario Kart Double Dash. And so the question becomes, where is it in a itemless challenge? And my opinion is going to be very blunt. It is second best. Did I honestly just dodge a shock with Star without using items, technically? What? Anywho, this is second in my opinion. And the reason being is because the slidey, drifty mechanics of the ice physics, while normally a frustration, in a run where every single track is effectively the same, those slidey, drifty mechanics give Sherbet Land something totally unique that virtually no other track in Double Dash has, putting it actually quite high on my list if I'm being honest. Coming up in the bottom of Star Cup, you know it, we know it, it's Mushroom City. Now, Mushroom City, as far as a track on its own, isn't terrible. It's one that I will get behind and I will play on a regular basis and say that it is a good track. But compared to the other two Star Cup tracks coming up, it's by far my least favorite. For one, the mirror mode version of the track leaves me so disoriented that I lose track of where in the lap I am in these awkward turns in here. On top of that, you have the traffic, which acts a really, really good obstacle throughout the entire track. This is a good thing. I have absolutely no complaints with that. Where my complaints start to come into play is the sameness. Now, some tracks feel different the further you play through it. For example, you have Moonview Highway. You have Mushroom Bridge. These are both city tracks, but they are city tracks that, in my opinion, do a much better job at showcasing what a city track could be. And this just feels a little meh to me overall. Not a bad track, one I will gladly play multiple times over. Just not my personal favorite. And going into lap 2 here, I suppose, or lap 2, lap 3, there's a couple things that kind of give me the frustration element in here. For one, anytime I play at Mushroom City on regular mode, I feel like it's perfectly fine. I know the track, I know where I'm going, but for whatever reason, the mirror mode version always leaves me absolutely confused. And maybe it's just that I am too used to this track being a very specific setup, but it never feels right on mirror. It hasn't even since I was a kid. Anywho, coming up in third place, and this next one is absolutely blasphemous for most people, is Yoshi's Island. Now, the reason why I'm putting Yoshi's Island as low on the totem pole as I am is because, as far as circuits go, well, this one is iconic, unique. I will never get lost, even on mirror mode. To me, it doesn't have enough that sets it apart from the rest of the game as a whole. There's not enough that sets it truly apart from tracks like Mario Circuit or Luigi Circuit. It's a very simplistic track with a couple of piranha plants if you want to go that route. There are no absolutely unique obstacles that you have to worry about. There's a couple rather tight turns, but that's not that bad, all things considered. Yoshi Chopper is a decent, what would you call it? A set piece? This iconic piece from the Yoshi's Island game showing up as a obstacle or as a viewer within the track makes sense and makes it stand out a little bit. But if I'm being honest, Yoshi's Island doesn't really do as much for me as some other tracks do. Now, I think part of that comes from the fact that as a kid, I did not like this track. And I think part of the reason I disliked it was because of just how windy it was near the back. And I couldn't wrap my kid brain around how a track could be shaped like Yoshi at all. And so, to me, I always said, oh, this isn't actually shaped like a Yoshi. It makes no sense. There's no big deal. They're just slapping giant hands or whatever over top of the course to say it looks like a Yoshi. But adult me knows that child me was wrong. But I think there is some bias and nostalgia attached to what I used to think or feel about this course. Now, that is the irritation when you're dealing with rose-tinted glasses, is that you're gonna fall in love with something as a kid or earlier in life, but you might not. It's hard to break past those initial feelings long term. Anywho, we have done second, fourth, and third. The last course of the Star Cup is, of course, DK Mountain. And I'm going to be honest. This track alone was by far one of my favorites as a kid. I had so much bias and nostalgia for this one. And maybe that's just me. But in my mentality, starting off a track with this wonderful cannon, you get to see the entire track, not only the track itself, but everybody who's still racing on it. Every obstacle, every item box, you get a sense of what you're doing, what you're driving on, and what your goal actually is. Coming down from the mountain itself, you have the rocky, bumpy terrain that makes it difficult to maintain grip on the road, difficult to steer accurately. Follow that up with a winding road down the side of the dirt path, across a treacherous chasm with a rickety little bridge, and you have the recipe for a track that never overstays its welcome with any given section of the track, but always does something a little bit more unique and always keeps you guessing or wanting more. That is my true belief behind this track being one of the best in Mario Kart. But me growing up, it had a cannon, it made me fly across the map really fast, and I liked it. I never really pay attention to all the nuances, all the little things that this track does to make it stand out from its contemporaries. I think that's something that I'm very guilty of, especially looking back at 8-year-old me, is that a lot of games and a lot of circumstances in games, I was very drawn to spectacle. And spectacle is a great thing. It draws us in, it gets us thinking, it engages that happy, or that point in our brains where, ooh, I like this. But it doesn't always last, so to speak. Anywho, the point I'm trying to get at is that it's very common for people to like certain tracks, especially ones that we have nostalgia for, simply because it's hard to break away from that rose-tinted glasses, as I said. It's hard to actually look at these things objectively without that feeling of, oh, this is amazing. But with 40 points under the belt, a perfect score on Mirror Mode Star, we are going into the absolute final Mario Kart Double Dash Track Pack. And we already know what it is. Next time that Mario Kart Double Dash crops up on the channel, it will be the finale of this series where we will officially complete Mario Kart Double Dash without the intentional use of items. If you like what you see, want to see the finale, or are just curious what else I've got cooking, drop a like, leave a subscribe, and we'll catch you next time. Until next time, I hope you all have a good one.